Back to school, back to COVID. Masking up again, at least for another week in Montgomery County, Maryland, after at least 3 students tested positive for COVID at Rosemary Hills Elementary in Silver Springs. Here's Montgomery County Superintendent Manifa McKnight.
Health and safety of our students is most priority. When there is an outbreak, we have protocol that we put in place. We may, in some cases, ask students to mask. If so, we communicate with those communities particularly to let them know why and what the process would be.
Might this be a harbinger for public schools this winter? Well, joining us is Bridget Ziegler, director of the Leadership Institute School Board Programs and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. Bridget, thanks for being with us. So I'm assuming parents didn't react too well to remasking their kids at this elementary school in Montgomery County. So what are most saying?
I think parents particularly, are incredibly alarmed to see a school district bring forward that component of mask or the option or risks of mask after we saw children's learning abilities decline substantially. We saw a speech diagnosis, I think it was more than double since the pandemic. And it's all because, again, putting masks across a child's face or an adult's face really does create an impediment to a learning environment. And again, when you think about the goal and mission of an educational institution, it's to create an environment for a child to academically thrive. And this hysteria of masks, when we know it doesn't work, is alarming, and it has parents fed up.
Well, I understand when little children are learning to speak well, they look at your lips and how you enunciate and pronounce things. And it's a little difficult with a mask, is it not? That is a concern. Absolutely.
Actually, I think it was ages 0 to 2, it increased 168% with speech delays or diagnosis. And so again, you have to consider it's not just the children wearing masks, but it's adults. And I have young children. There's key elements, key points in their development to be able to read facial cues, to be able to see the shape, as you mentioned, of a person's mouth when they're learning to speak. And we're seeing the impacts of it. So then to see a school district, after 3 cases in an elementary school, no less, bring back the notion of masks, of course it's going to have parents upset and bringing their voices heard. I know that in my experience, seeing parents across the country getting active and involved, the tipping point for them was during COVID initially in 2020 and 2021, that they were forced masking children and shutting down their schools. So I have no doubt that this is going to continue to raise parents' voices. But this time, I can tell you, I don't believe that they will be taking it lightly, and particularly in Montgomery County, where we've seen incredible activism.
Well, what's the likelihood then that other school districts may follow suit if they have outbreaks of COVID this winter?
Well, we've seen, unfortunately, too many adults make poor decisions at the detriment of our young children. However, I think over the last 2 years that we've seen the mobilization as the parental rights movement has expanded, where parents are learning how to become effective, how to organize, and they're actually making their voices heard to the elected officials at a school board. And I was actually talking to somebody recently in California who noted they were never politically active. Her name is Jessica, and she said, "It was the masking of my children. I will never again allow that." They're mobilizing and making their voices heard by doing email chains, showing up at school board meetings. And that would be my advice to anyone across the country. If you have any suspicion, or even don't wait, make sure that you let your elected officials know that you will not tolerate any of this draconian policies, particularly that hurt our children. Again, academic educational institution is there to see a child thrive. And we know for a fact that these masks have had a detrimental impact on children's development. And it's alarming, but I believe it's more about control than health at the end of the day.
Well, as you suggested, it seems if masking is reinstated this fall and winter, there's going to be a backlash from a lot of parents across the country. So what do you expect might happen here?
Well, here's what I think. If there are elected officials that believe that they believe that it's worthwhile to bring back masks, they have a rude awakening coming to them. And again, at Montgomery County, I think we're seeing a school board that has not only on the masks, we're seeing them fight parental rights at every level. We recently had an issue with parental rights. A number of parents of all different religious backgrounds fight the aspect of opting out of the sexual education curriculum. Now you hear in Montgomery County that they're tossing the idea of bringing masks back. I know that they're incredibly mobilized there. I would say that they're going to have a rude awakening come Election Day. And I hope that any other elected official across the country is paying attention. Doesn't matter what your party affiliation is. When you're going after people's children, as we saw in the last 2 years, it brings forth a groundswell of pushback, and I would anticipate that to happen. However, there have been some foolish lawmakers out there that are more focused on power and obedience. But I believe and feel very strongly that the American people have learned a lot in the last couple of years and will make sure that their voices are heard.
Okay, so the message is attend school board meetings and let your officials know how you feel and go out and vote. Bridget Ziegler,
Absolutely.
thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.